Hey everybody, it's Chuck Dixon, your TV pal, here to talk about what I've been watching. People always say, Chuck, what you watching? So here's a few things I've taken a look at recently off of the streaming services, and let's start with Netflix. Da-dum. The Trip is a Norwegian film. It's a dark comedy, and when the Norwegians go dark, they just go dark as a black pit at midnight. so, uh, interesting movie. The lead character wants to kill his wife. He's a soap opera director. Feels his career is going nowhere. She's a failed actress. He's tired of her. She's tired of him. And he decides he's going to bump her off during a weekend at his father's cabin in the woods. Unfortunately for him, his wife is Noomi Rapace, possibly the most unkillable woman in cinema history. And so he's got his work cut out for him. And things are complicated by other events. I won't spoil the movie for you. But it's an interesting film because it starts out as a comedy. It's a dark, like Hitchcock type comedy. And it's funny. There's some really funny scenes, comedically funny scenes at the beginning, as you begin to realize what his plan is, his plan for the perfect murder, which of course goes completely awry. But then when he gets up into the woods, predictably, because it is Noomi Rapace, his wife proves difficult to put down. This is further complicated by other events I don't want to get into because it would spoil the film for you. It's best if you discover this movie on your own. Suffice it to say, it doesn't stay all light and funny all the way through. It gets seriously creepy. And it's an interesting film, and it starts as a comedy, turns into a very, very effective suspense thriller. It's not funny anymore. And then it twists and turns back into a really, really dark comedy with, at the very end, satiric elements. One of the things I like about this movie is just before it closes, there's what looks to me as a slap at modern day entertainment industry. Because remember, this is a soap opera director and a failed actress are our lead characters, so they are entertainment figures. At the end, we get a little bit of a slap. I won't spoil it for you, but a little bit of slap at the entertainment industry, and possibly even a comment on Netflix itself, which is kind of cool since this is a Netflix production, that they would allow a little mockery of themselves at the very close. So interesting film. It was a lot of fun. I'm strongly drawn to rewatching this one. But again, I say, it's not one to watch with the kids. Be prepared for a rough ride. This movie doesn't really look away once it gets started, once things get rolling. But I promise you, you will be entertained throughout. Let's move over to HBO Max, just to mix it up a little bit. I got tired of watching crappy stuff that was new, that, I'd watch like half an episode of something or get 5 minutes into some new streaming produced movie and just think, I already know where this movie's going. I feel like I've seen this movie 100 times. So when that happens, I go back to older films that maybe I didn't appreciate or that I remember I kind of liked, and I kind of want to look and see, why did I kind of like them? Why didn't I like them more? Why didn't I hate them? So I went back. HBO Max runs a lot of older films. When you say old movie, I think the Marx Brothers, but I realize that younger people, old movies are movies made in 1978. But Coma was a big sensation at the time. You probably know the story, even if you haven't seen the movie. Geneviève Bujold is a doctor, a surgeon, who uncovers a criminal conspiracy to rob comatose patients of their inner organs. I'm not spoiling anything here for anybody. It's practically in the poster. If you've ever seen the paperback cover, you know the big surprise in the movie. And she finds this facility where basically they're keeping comatose patients alive so they can make a fortune off of them. And I saw this I saw this on the original HBO on an analog television, probably a 21-inch TV back in my apartment, probably 1979, 1980. That's the last time I ever saw it. And I remember that I kind of liked it. Well, now I really like it because looking back, it's a well-crafted thriller. And Tom Selleck's in it for a few minutes. Blink and you miss him. Ed Harris as well is in a very, very brief role. The thinnest you will ever see Ed Harris. I mean, not that he's a fat guy, but obviously he had not gone to the gym yet. He had not gone through the program to turn him into a Hollywood leading man yet. So anyway, I remember seeing it. I remember liking it. But upon rewatching it now, all these years later, I really like it. It's a good, tight suspense film. It's got really good performances. Now, it's based on a novel by Robin Cook, a best-selling novel. But the screenplay is written by Michael Crichton, and Michael Crichton directs. And that's really lifts this movie above the standard, paranoid thriller, is that Michael Crichton was a practicing surgeon. And it brings a real, I have to think that his hand in this movie brought a real verisimilitude, there's a word for you to look up, a real believability to the surgery sequences, which are all very suspenseful, even before you know what's going on. The surgery, being in an operating room, people being cut open, it's suspenseful right there because we can all relate to that. We've either ourselves or our loved ones have gone under the knife at some point. He really brings an air of authenticity to all of it. The inner hospital politics that play a large part in this movie, the relationship between Michael Douglas and Jean-Pierre Bujold. They're both doctors and they're both, involved with one another. And the tensions between them. And I got to think that Crichton lived a lot of this movie himself, as a young resident and a young surgeon at a big city hospital. And but it all clicks along really well. It's really tight. It's really suspenseful. There's nothing contrived here. The performances, like I said, are all excellent, and it is seriously creepy. And we can all relate to a medical conspiracy, especially today, because we're living in one. If anything, the movie Coma isn't paranoid enough about the people that run our medical industry. Obviously in this film the government isn't involved, but or the Wuhan lab, but it's not hard to imagine that this movie is only a few steps away from the life that we're living in now, where there's a lot of distrust, whether deserved or not, of our medical establishment. I say medical establishment, not our doctors and nurses. We still trust them. We still have a personal relationship with them. But the people running the show behind them, we have cause to doubt now. Where a few years ago we didn't. We still had cause to doubt them, but people didn't doubt them. But now they're kind of seeing the evidence for themselves. That there's an awful lot of people high in the medical hierarchy who are working very hard to cover their ass. So it makes this movie even more relevant today than when it was released. But if you have HBO Max and it's still up there, you need to check it out. Or find it elsewhere. These things tend to move around the streaming universe. They might be on Hulu or IMDb at this point. So, definitely worth a look. It's a film that I've grown to appreciate much more. Time has been good to it. Okay, let's move over to Prime Video. Now, here's a movie called Dragon Day. You may never have heard about it. I stumbled across it, one of those Saturday afternoons when you just don't feel like getting up. It's like, let's just see what's on. Let's see what the first few minutes of this look like. Catch this one while you can. I mean, my wife came in about halfway through and got involved and had to sit down and finish watching it with me. It's a post-apocalyptic thing, but it's not post-apocalyptic. You see the apocalypse happening. And the thing about this one is it's not nuclear war. It's not zombies. It's not anything else. It's a takeover. This is why you need to watch it now before they realize they have it up there and they want to take it down. It's a takeover by the Chinese Communist Party, take over the United States by hacking into all of our systems, so that our cars don't run, the electrical grid goes down, they take over the phone grid and the rest. And apparently this is a project that has been a long time in the making. And within days, the United States is transformed into a tribute nation to the Chinese government. And they, enlist law enforcement, they enlist fellow citizens and all the rest of it. Now, this is a low budget, no budget film, but they really creatively show you the universe that this exists in. This isn't an epic film by any means. It's shrunk down to a cast of, 5 or 6 characters going through this, but it's extremely effective. Again, another, paranoid fantasy that might possibly already be true. And it's an interesting film. I don't know any of the people that were in it. It looks like it was made, for $25,000 over a weekend, but they spent the money well. It's a professionally made. It's very well acted. They did a lot with the money that they had, and it's an effective thriller. There's a lot of suspense elements here, and we can all relate to it because it's all involves the technology that we're practically, well, not even practically, enslaved to now. That we're indebted to this technology we carry around with us all the time, and in this film, that is what ultimately dooms all of us. And there's all the usual societal collapse stuff, running out of food and wandering bands of, rednecks intent on, rape and pillage and all that stuff. But that's not what the movie's really about. The movie's really about, how do we get out of this? Is there a way out of this? Or is it gone? Is America gone? Or are we just basically hostage to another nation? So, but on a much, much, much lighter note, also on Amazon Prime is Blaake 7. This is a series I've always been aware of. It's a sci-fi series out of the UK. It ran from 1978 to 1981. I've always seen like comic books based on it and things like that. I've never seen the show. And someone, I think it was here on YouTube, and I can't remember, and I apologize. Someone suggested I watch it. They thought I might be into it. And so I began watching it, and it's a sci-fi series. It's very British. It's very 2000 AD-ish in the way that life is cheap in the future in this show. It's pretty brutal for a 70s BBC production. This is like a PG-13 version of Doctor Who, and it involves a group of rebels fighting against a totalitarian society based on Earth that controls the outer planets. We've seen this scenario a million times. But Blaake and his fellow convicts and a couple of people he picks up along the way, they form this sort of dirty almost a dozen that wants to fight the empire, fight the corrupt power of the government. And the corrupt power of the government in the early episodes is shown in a way we all recognize all corrupt governments are. Lots of cover-ups and shenanigans, and they feel like they're justified in what they're doing. And it's 70s all the way through, as we can see even in the distant future. 70s haircuts make a comeback. The effects are cheesy. You've seen BBC productions. I mean, Doctor Who from the same period was not exactly John Dykstra or Industrial Light and Magic. It was, plastic models hanging by, fishing line. But for all of that, the show is incredibly addictive. The stories are terrific. Terry Nation created the show, and Doctor Who fans will know he wrote a whole lot of the Tom Baker era of Doctor Who, some of the most memorable episodes. And here he just really moves the story along. A lot happens. There's terrific cliffhangers, and it makes you forget how cheeseball the whole production is. The acting is, over the top, but it has to be to put this kind of material across. But there's a lot going on in every episode. The villains always get their comeuppance. We get to see Brian Blessed explode. I mean, come on. That's worth the price of admission. So, it's a whole bunch of episodes, and I'm not even showing you all the images here. But you got you got to excuse the fashion sense of the characters. I mean, will there ever be a future where everybody dresses like this? I don't know. Apparently, when I was a kid, we were promised that in the future everybody would wear unitards. That didn't happen, thank God, except for a brief time in the early 70s. But the coolest thing about it is the ship, the Liberator. It's an alien ship that the heroes managed to commandeer for themselves in their fight against the evil Federation. And it's not hard to see why the show was popular. It really, as I said, it's addictive. I watched the first episode and like, oh yeah, this is okay, this is watchable. And I was basically watching it while I was on my treadmill, because you want to watch something. And then I started watching it when I wasn't on the treadmill. I thought, no, I really want to know what happens next. And that's the secret to a great story and great writing. And the writing is good. It's cynical. Like I said, it's 2000 AD. It's cynical. It's sharp. The characters are mean to each other. They're all sharply drawn. There's a ton of science fiction concepts thrown at you from every which way. And it's just a lot of fun. And this is about as good as the effects ever look on the show. Just to give you a warning. But I always wonder where they get the sets. There must have been a lot of filming done in the basement of BBC. BBC must have had an extensive boiler room for Doctor Who and people like this to wander around in for hours. But it's worth checking out. It's on Amazon Prime, and all the seasons are up there. If you like this kind of stuff, it's worth a shot. Hey, if you have suggestions, questions, comments, and you want to reach me directly, obviously you can comment below this video. I read them. But the most reliable way to reach me is brunobookstore@gmail.com, and a lot of you have. And you've joined my email list, so I can keep you informed of other stuff I've done as well, or stuff I'm working on. And, I won't pester you. I'm not a big spammer. I send out something maybe once a month at the most. And, this is the way to get a hold of me. Also, if you think about it, if you like comics, head on over to ArcTunes. I know you're tired of me telling you about this. It's a new digital platform. We have over 3 million views now and heading toward 4 million. It's free. It's digital. It's high res. You can read these comics on your big screen in your living room. That's how I read them. And there's lots of fun stuff here and more creators joining us all the time. There's almost every genre you can think of. I guarantee you have my Chuck Dixon guarantee that if you visit ArcTunes, you will find at least one series that you want to follow every week. And I suggest that one series be My Sister Suprema. So that's it for me this week. I will keep watching. I'm glad you watched this. I'm glad you listened. And thanks for stopping by, and I'll see you all down the road.